आपको बताएं कि इस्लामाबाद में मुनक़िदा बिज़नेस समिट में चेयरमैन तहरीक इंसाफ इमरान खान तकरीब से खिताब कर रहे हैं।
So he has experience in that field, you know, how to fix things.
How are you going to change it?
Sorry?
How are you going to change it?
Well, in a nutshell, the way to resolve Pakistan's problem, all the problems, is exactly is to do the opposite of why we have all the problems in Pakistan. So therefore, the reasons why we are in a mess is because we have destroyed our institutions, the state institutions, and how we will fix them is to fix the state institutions. So I'll just give you one example. In Pakhtunkhwa, which is the province where my party is in government, the police is the most difficult thing to fix in Pakistan. Today, the police in KP is by far the best police in Pakistan. Reason is, we made it into an institution. We got one of the best persons to head the police force. We stopped all political interference. There's no political interference in the police in Pakhtunkhwa. All the selections are on merit. There's an NTS system which we adopted rather than nepotism and favoritism, or actually people took money to have policemen inducted. So we fixed that system, and then the internal accountability of the police led to a really a police force that has brought down crime. It has brought down terrorism in a province where, when we took over, the highest number of terrorist attacks were in KP. So it can be fixed by bringing in merit, by the police is no longer following dictates of some ruling party. They follow the law. And it's exactly how you fix all the institutions like cricket. Cricket should be an institution in Pakistan. It should not, the Prime Minister should not be appointing the head of the cricket board. The cricket board should be an institution. They should have elections. They should have a body, and that body should select a chief executive, like happens everywhere else.
But when you talk of institutions, I mean, one of the institutions is the military, the army. And if you look at Pakistan from south of the border, from India, I mean, as an outsider, people say, well, India is a great democracy, blah, blah, blah. They look at Pakistan, they say, well, Pakistan could be a great democracy, but it oscillates between military rule and democratic rule. So what's gone wrong with these institutions?
Well, we went off to a bad start because Pakistan was a security state. The fear of security always hounded Pakistan when it first came into being. So the military got much stronger because we relied on the military for security. But unfortunately, as time went on, whenever the democratic system failed, we never allowed that democratic system to self-correct. Instead, we had these interventions which retarded the whole democratic process. Fortunately now, and thanks to electronic media, we have one of the most vibrant medias anywhere in the world. And thanks especially to social media now, which is a huge force that people still are not understanding the impact of social media. So the level of awareness is such that I do not think that we will ever have military takeover in Pakistan in our history again. But what has happened is that we are now moving mentally towards a more democratic system. People are aware of their rights. You know, the media just doesn't spare anyone. And if the mainstream media misses anyone, the social media does not miss them.
Yeah, true enough. Going back to cricket just for, sorry, this microphone I think is that better? Going back to cricket for a moment. And I mentioned a few great all-rounders. Let's just talk about batsmen. In your experience, who was the best batsman you played against?
Well, the easiest question to answer. His name was Viv Richards. He was by far, I mean, he was a genius.
Yeah.
There were some great batsmen during my time, but no one came close to Viv Richards because he had these exceptional God-gifted qualities. He had the greatest talent.
And he never wore a helmet.
he had this, his reflexes. He had the best reflexes of any player, batsman I'd bowled to. He was courageous, brave, you know, all these qualities in one player. I think if he had played any sport, he would have excelled. You know, he had all the, you know, he had the courage, he had the temperament, he loved the big matches. He would lose interest when there was no challenge. So another quality, he took on challenges, and there just no one came close to him.
And the best bowler?
The best
fast bowler apart from you?
The best fast bowler, I thought, you know, he only, for 5 years, he bowled at his fastest, was Michael Holding.
Yeah. Looked beautiful when he bowled, really fantastic. Spin bowler?
Spin bowler in my time, I thought he was not very successful, but I thought he was the most talented. Was Abdul Qadir.
Yeah.
Now, problem was that if Abdul Qadir played today, I have no doubt that he would have got as many wickets as Shane Warne.
Yeah.
But the system, the umpiring was such, you didn't have this DRS system now. They never gave wickets to him on the front foot, like Shane Warne used to get wickets on the front foot. Abdul Qadir never got those wickets. So I reckon if he was playing now, he would be as good, if not better than Shane Warne. Viv Richards and Rana Tunga of Sri Lanka, I remember I was sitting with them once on television. Both of them rated him higher even than Shane Warne.
Really? Wow. And the best current players?
I'm not, you know, that current right now because, as you know, I'm in a different ball game. My concentration is on the Panama pitch. And let me tell you, everyone else is also watching the Panama score.
I was about to bowl you that particular googly. What do you think should happen over the Panama Papers, Panama Gate, the Nawaz thing? That's an easy question.
No, that's even easier than saying the best batsman, I thought. You know. Panama, what should happen is that what should happen first time in our history is that a powerful person in Pakistan should be convicted of corruption and money laundering. That should happen. It's never happened. Unfortunately, in the past, our judicial system has always sided with the powerful people. And this is the first time, I don't want to say because, you know, they're about to announce their verdict, hopefully this week, coming week. But I think, you know, it is a defining moment in the history of Pakistan. It's a defining moment because this verdict will change the way the ruling elite governs in Pakistan.
But presumably the ruling elite may say that you know, this is really the power of the demonstration, the power of the street. I mean, you famously organized demonstrations outside Parliament. So in a way, aren't you sort of going outside the institutions?
Look, in a democratic society, when you do not get justice, it is the right of a citizen to have a peaceful demonstration. We have always had peaceful demonstrations. There are 2 times we have taken to the streets. First time was when we demanded in the 2013 election that just open 4 constituencies out of 413 constituencies which were controversial or where people thought the elections had been rigged. We just said open 4 sample constituencies just so that we find out what happened in the election and that it is not repeated again in the next election. That's all. So we were not allowed to open those 4 constituencies. We took to the streets. And bear in mind, 22 political parties said the election was rigged. Not just us. In fact, the entire political spectrum said the election was rigged. So all we wanted was an investigation. And when it didn't happen, it took us a year, tried everything, then we took to the streets. Second time was Panama. We went to the National Assembly. the entire opposition in the National Assembly wanted an investigation into Panama. When we realized that the ruling party was not going to allow that investigation, then my party took to the streets wanting to open an investigation into it. And eventually we ended up in the Supreme Court. So we have stayed within the Constitution. We have stood up for what is our democratic right to get justice. And never have we gone out of the Constitution or the limits of the Constitution.
You know, one of the previous speakers today, Senator, I can't remember his name now, but anyway, his point, corruption is part of our political DNA. Yeah,
Which I was saying?
Yes.
I'm just trying to place him now. Go on, tell me.
It's quite difficult to change your DNA. How are you going to do it?
This is just absolute nonsense. Throughout history, we have seen societies change the course of direction where they've headed. We have also seen societies that don't change. We've seen them destroyed. This is throughout human history. So all the time, human beings, human societies are presented a situation where you reach a point where you say, if you want to survive, you have to change. The whole theory behind survival of the species is not the most fittest to survive. It's the most adaptable who survive. Pakistan has reached the point. If we do not change the way we run this country, we are heading towards not one, but many crises, but main crises. We are bankrupt. We don't have enough money to run the country, to educate our children, to have proper hospitals, to have clean drinking water, to provide for the huge unemployed youth in this country. And unless and until we change the way we govern, strengthen the institutions, and have strong institutions which fight corruption. Corruption is, I remember in Singapore when we were in the 60s, Singapore wasn't a clean society, it was much more corrupt than Pakistan. Pakistan was not a corrupt society in the 60s. I remember there was one boy in our class and the whole class suspected that his father was corrupt, and poor guy, for 8 years, everyone called his father corrupt in the class. So gradually, corruption became acceptable. It wasn't in our DNA. We accepted corruption because the ruling elite, when your ruling elite gets corrupt, they corrupt the whole system. Fish rots from the top. And we have in human history examples of who is a prophet, peace be upon him. When he started the first Muslim society in Medina, through his personal example, he lifted the whole moral standards of the whole society. The same people changed. In English society, we know of, I read about Victorian England, one man, Prince Albert, the husband of Queen Victoria, through his moral standards, he lifted the whole century was called a century of Victorian values. So the Englishmen who came here, Robert Clive and the East India Company types, were corrupt, were known to be corrupt. But gradually after Prince Albert's time, the whole morality of the society changed. So if you have a crook running the country, he destroys the whole system. And if you have someone who's clean, and we've seen Lee Kuan Yew in Singapore, yeah. We've seen Mahathir in Malaysia, and they've changed the society. So I disagree about this DNA bit.
Mind you, Malaysia has gone back a bit since Mahathir's time.
But you see,
which in a way proves your point. It does depend upon an individual.
And then if that individual then brings in strong institutions. If you have powerful institutions, for instance, like in Switzerland. I mean, Switzerland, we don't even know who the Prime Minister is.
पाकिस्तान की सियासत को बदल देगा। उम्मीद है आइंदा हफ्ते पनामा का फैसला आ जाएगा और मेरी तवज्जो आजकल पनामा पर है। इस्लामाबाद में मुनक़्क़िदा बिज़नेस समिट में चेयरमैन तहरीक इंसाफ इमरान खान तकरीब से खिताब कर रहे थे।